Then they by wisdom made the heavens. Then they stretched out the earth above the water. Then they made great lights. The sun to rule by day, the moon and stars to rule by night. The smoke great king and brought out Israel from among them. With a strong hand and with a stretched out arm, and was divided the Red Sea into parts, and made Israel pass through the midst of it, but overthrew Pharaoh's host in the Red Sea. To him that led his people through the wilderness, to him was smote great king, and slew famous king. The king of the Amorites, and Og, king of Bashan, and gave their land for inheritance. Even to Israel his servant, who remembers our Lord's estate, and redeemed us from our enemies, who give food to all flesh. Oh, give thanks to God of heaven, for his mercy endures forever. Thank God for this lesson this morning. Our lesson, our lesson, our lesson for the day is lesson number 65. The date is October 24, 2021. Our subject of our lesson is Temperance Sunday. How to handle embrace soul God's way. We got to know how to handle all kinds of people at this time. Our entire lesson is found in 1 Samuel 25, 1 through 33. We thank God for this lesson. At this time, we're going to turn over to our teachers to teach us in your class, Sister Arnetta Anderson.
Good morning. Thank you. Yes, let us go through lesson number 65, Temperance Sunday. We're going to learn how to be in control of ourselves this Sunday and how to handle abrasive souls. Our model text is coming from 1 Samuel 25, 2 through 3. That's the model text, 2 through 3. And there was a man in Nahum whose possessions were in Carmel. And the man was very great, and he had 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats. And he was shearing his sheep in Carmel. Now the name of the man was Nabal, and the name of his wife was Abigail. And she was a woman of good understanding and of a beautiful countenance. But the man was churlish and evil in his doings, and he was of the house of Caleb. Our entire lesson is going to come from 1 Samuel 25, 1 through 3, which will also include our model text. So let's take a look at that, okay? 1 Samuel 25, we're going to talk about David. Again, he's going to teach us a lesson through his actions. We're going to talk about Nabal and Abigail, okay? David's anger at Nabal is what the big picture is. But first, we're going to talk about, the first 25, 1. All right, Samuel had died, okay? He was the great prophet and judge over Israel. If we recall Samuel, he was all throughout the Old Testament, and sometimes he was mentioned in the New. He was somebody who left a remarkable heritage. 1 Chronicles 9:22. Let us know that he organized the Levites in the service of the sanctuary, which was completed by David and Solomon. 1 Chronicles 26:27 through 28 said that he was collecting treasures for building the temple in Solomon's day. 2 Chronicles 35:18 reports that he remembered the Passover and kept Israel in remembrance of God's great deliverance. Solomon was all throughout the Bible of being somebody of great standing, and this is what we want to do. When we leave this earth, we want to be known as people who did great things for God. All right, our family is going to mourn us. The Israelites gathered together and lamented for Samuel. Okay, but he was honored in his death. But although he died, it also says that David arose. So as one soldier goes down, another one steps in to continue to carry on the faith. Then Samuel died, and the Israelites gathered together and lamented for him and buried him at his home in Ramah. And David arose and went down to the wilderness of Paran. A man named Nabal and his wife. Now there was a man in Moab, and we read that part, right? Now the man was very rich. What was this man rich in? He wasn't rich in character, and he wasn't rich in faith. He was a rich man. He was wealthy by his goods, okay, the lowest kind of riches. He was shearing his sheep in Carmel. This was harvest time, okay, for a sheep rancher, because it was like, it was a time that that he was going to have a lot. It was a lavish time. It was a time for that back in there. They were hospitable towards others because they were going to have an abundance, okay, of things. They were going to have enough for their families, their servants. He was going to have an abundance because this man had 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats. Okay, it's so important to remember that he had a lot. Okay, and also remember, God never puts anything in Scripture that doesn't tell us something. Okay, so the character of Nabal. All right, the name of the man was Nabal. Okay, the name Nabal means fool. In ancient Israel, names were often connected with a person's character. We don't know if Nabal was given this name or he earned it, but that's what his name meant. And saying that the fact that he was from the house of Caleb means dog. So that lets us know the type of person that Nabal is. He was a foolish. He was from a land of dogs. He was from a place where people were doggish people. So we understand that in our days, not so good, not the great kind of person. But we also know that a man who finds a wife finds a good thing. Now, Abigail, on the other hand, was a woman of good understanding. Good understanding means that she was smart. She was both smart and she was beautiful. Okay? It's very important, to know that he didn't have a wife who was mean or nasty, and he had a wife that was wise. Okay, so David asks for compensation for his valuable service to Nabal. When David heard in the wilderness that Nabal was shearing his sheep, David sent 10 young men, and David said to the young men, "Go up to Carmel, go to Nabal, and greet him in my name. And thus you shall say to him who lives in prosperity, peace be to you, peace be to your house, and peace to all that you have. Now I have heard that you have shearers. Your shepherds were with us, and we did not hurt them, nor was there anything missing from them all the while they were in Carmel. Ask your young men, and they will tell you. Therefore let my young men find favor in your eyes, for we come on a feast day. Please give whatever comes to your hand to your servants and to your son David." So when David's young men came, they spoke to Nabal according to all these things in the name of David, and David waited. David made this request because he had performed a valuable service for Nabal, protecting his flocks when the Philistine raids were common. To our ears, it might sound like David ran some kind of protection racket. So they were out there in the fields, and they were looking out for Nabal's his people, his workers, and nothing, so that nothing could come harm to him. And now it's shearing time. It's time of harvest. And what was custom back then was to share what you had. So David sent his men down to make this request of him. Okay, during the time when they knew that he was, shearing the sheep, he was going to have a lot, and he asked for some. Okay, it was a polite request. David, politely reminded Nabal of the traditions of generosity surrounding harvest and sheep shearing. And he said, "Please give whatever you can." David did not demand any specific payment for Nabal or set a price. He simply left it up to Nabal's generosity. Then David's messengers simply waited for the reply. So this is what Nabal's reply was. Then Nabal answered David's servants and said, "Who is David? And who is the son of Jesse? There are many servants nowadays who break away from one of his masters. Shall I then take my bread and my water and my meat that I have killed for my shearers and give it to men when I do not know where they are from?" So David's young men turned on their heels and went back, and they told David what Nabal said to them. Now, the phrase, "who is David and who is the son of Jesse?" No, it can't be that. It wasn't that Nabal did not know who David was. David was famous throughout Israel. He knew who he was. So that phrase was insulting. In our ways of saying, who do you think you are to ask me for anything? I don't know y'all from a can of pay. I don't know. It was a direct insult to David. There are many servants nowadays who break away, each one from this. Now, Nabal, He even made it worse, his insult, saying that David, it was a rebellious servant, which was not true because David had continually conducted himself wisely, even when he was attacked by Saul. He always, he didn't attack Saul back or speak bad. He just, flee from him. Then he says, shall I take my bread, my water, my meat, my shearers and give it? Nabal showed that what an ungenerous man he was. He looked at everything as his instead of the Lord's. True and biblical generosity doesn't think this is mine, and I won't share with you. Oh, this is mine. This off of me. It's for me, mine. We think of everything that we receive is the Lord's. So of course you can have some. I see that you're in need. I'm going to, open up my pantry. I'm going to open up whatever I got, and I'm going to give it to you. But they're showing the nature of Nabal here. David reacts to Nabal's insulting response. So then David said to his men, every man gird on his sword. So every man girded his sword, and David also girded on his sword. And about 400 men went with David, and 200 stayed with the supplies. David received Nabal's response exactly the way that Nabal intended for him to do it. And so instead of turning the other cheek, David says, we're going down here, okay? Skip that. We're killing them all. Who is he to tell me that he's not going to, pay me? Or who is he not to render his goods to me? Who does he think he is? I'm David. I'm going to go down here. Not only am I going to kill him, I'm going to kill everybody in his household. We're just going to go and we're going to just slay everything. Take it away. Okay. So one of the servants heard how Nabal spoke to the men of David, and he goes to Abigail, which was Nabal's wife. And he says to Abigail, hey, Nabal just, rejected or reviled David, just, insulted him when he came and asked him for, what he had so plenty of. And, we're afraid. He kind of told Abigail, we're afraid for our life. David's men were good to us. They looked out for us when we were out there. Nothing bad came to us. We can't come to your husband because your husband is a Baal. Or, he is, just a despicable man. We can't talk to him. He's not approachable. So Abigail, being a wise woman, remember we said that she was an understanding woman. She knew how to handle her, the house. She knew how to handle this situation. Mm-hmm. So then Abigail made haste and took 200 loaves of bread, 2 skins of wine, 5 sheep already dressed, 5 seahs of roasted grain, 100 clusters of raisins, and 200 cakes of figs, and loaded them on donkeys. And she said to her servants, go on before me. See, I'm coming after you. But she did not tell her husband Nabal. So it was as she rode on the donkey, she went down under cover of the hill, and there were David and his men coming down toward her, and she met them. She pleaded with David, she just, laid out her heart. She gave them what they needed, laid out her heart, and just said, please, she even accepted the follies of her husband's sin upon her. She was like, you know what, put it on me, put it on me. Just, say these people, he knows not what he does. She knew what to do. She knew how to react to an abrasive soul. At that time, David was an abrasive soul, just as Nabal was an abrasive soul. We can't do evil for evil. We can't respond to the world the same way that they give us. And Abigail interceded and showed temperance, and she showed how to, mitigate that situation so that she was able to avoid the bloodshed upon her house. And this was Abigail's plea. She says, now, when Abigail saw David, she hastened to dismount from the donkey, fell on her face before David, and bowed down to the ground. So she fell at his feet and said, on me, my Lord, on me, let this iniquity be. And please let your maidservant speak in your ears, and hear the words of your maidservant. Please let not my Lord regard the scoundrel Nabal, for as his name is, so is he. Nabal is his name, and folly is with him. But I, your maidservant, did not see the young men of my Lord whom you sent. Now therefore, my Lord, as the Lord lives, and as your soul lives, since the Lord has held you back from coming to bloodshed and from avenging yourself with your own hand, now then let your enemies and those who seek harm for my Lord be as Nabal. And now this present which your maidservant has brought to my Lord, let it be given to the young men who follow my Lord. Please forgive the trespass of your maidservant, for the Lord will certainly make for my Lord an enduring house, because my Lord fights the battles of the Lord, and evil is not found in you through your days. Yet a man has risen to pursue you and seek your life. But the life of my Lord shall be bound in the bundle of the living, and the Lord of your God, and the lives of your enemies he shall sling out, as from the pocket of a sling. And it shall come to pass when the Lord has done for my Lord according to all the good that he has spoken concerning you, and has appointed you ruler over Israel, that this will be no grief to you, nor offense of heart to my Lord, either that you have shed blood without cause, or that my Lord has avenged himself. But when the Lord has dealt well with my Lord, then remember your maidservant. She comes down. It's so beautifully how she comes. How she was humble. She was humble. She took care of that, and he, and through that, they was able to see that his response was wrong. And he was like, you know what? He said, the life of my Lord shall be bound. He said, no, he's not going to do that. Okay, he accepted her plea, and he went on his way. Now, when Abigail did tell her husband what she did after that night, because he was drunk, and then the next morning she let him know, said that his heart was as stone, and David didn't have to kill Nabal, because after which the Lord stepped in and he killed Nabal. Not only did he kill Nabal, but then he gave Abigail to David as his wife. We can't fight with the same sword that the enemy fights with. When we're coming against a brace with souls, we've got to let God do it his way. Thank God for Abigail and her intervention, and thank God for the Lord pricking David's heart so that he was able to see and accept her intervention on behalf of her household. The explanation is not one of us requested to come into this world, and not one can determine when or what the circumstances will be in our departure. We can guide our lives and works as we strive to exist while portraying characteristics of God. Churlish means to be rude and unpleasant in responding to others or in your manner of work in accomplishing an assigned task. All are taught in Philippians 2:14 through 15 to do all things without murmurings and disputing, that ye may be blameless and harmless, the sons of God, without rebuke in the midst of a crooked and perverse nation, among whom ye shine as lights in the world. Moses, in frustration of the constant complaints of God's people as he led the nation of Israel out of Egypt, sin, into the promised land, smote the rock to obtain water instead of speaking in a much softer tone. That's from Numbers 20:10. Moses could not enter the land that was promised to Abraham some 400 years later, Deuteronomy 32:48-52, in that one duty. Moses failed to show sanctification of God before his people. Those souls belong to God, not Moses. As revealed in today's lesson, the man of great wealth by the name of Nabal refused to render kindness to David and his 400 warriors, who peacefully requested survival assistance. The reply was relayed to David, who immediately called his warriors to take by force what they could have first done without asking for help. Nabal's soft-spoken wife, Abigail, interceded on Nabal's behalf, as well as on the behalf of the servants who would have been slaughtered. She peacefully entreated, begged for forgiveness for Nabal, while acknowledging David as the fighter of God's earthly battles. She prevented the shedding of blood on her whole household. Our memory verse comes from Colossians 3:12-14. Put on, therefore, as the elect of God, holy and beloved, bowels of mercy, kindness, humbleness of mind, meekness, long-suffering, forbearing one another and forgiving one another. If any man have a quarrel against any, even as Christ forgave you, so also do ye. And above all these things, put on charity, which is the bond of perfectness. May the Lord have a blessing to the hearer and doer of his words. Service is now in the hands of our superintendent.
Amen. We thank Arnetta for going through this lesson this morning. Very beautiful lesson. I see myself in this morning because
Amen.
we need to realize when God bless us, He blessed us to bless somebody else. Would anyone else have anything to say on this lesson this morning?
Well, I think the lesson, I love the story. This is, oh man, so indicative of God's grace towards us. And I often think about John the Baptist when um, the Pharisees and scribes, they would come to John to be baptized. And he says that you must bring gifts that are worthy of repentance. And this story always reminds me of how we must show God's grace in everything that we do, especially when offenses come. And even though they may not come through us, there is someone interceding on our behalf to bring peace to someone who has been offended, especially within our own household or someone that we are close to or we cover in our daily lives spiritually, and whatever area of need is there, someone is always covering us. And one of the great things and mysteries of God is, like Abigail covered her husband,
Mm-hmm.
we likewise need to be covered by someone who is more wiser than we are, who are stronger and can keep us and protect us. I love this story. I love how it relates and it intertwines. I mean, it eventually gets to Jesus. And I just appreciate the words that were being spoken on today. We all need, again, someone to cover us, to tell us and intervene for us when we make foolish decisions, when we can't make rational decisions about things. We need that person in our lives to say, no, that is not right. And if we don't fix it, then that person certainly will use wisdom to say, I have to intervene. I love a person like that who would intervene on my behalf because I can't see it. And I may say this, Deaconess Foot, without even realizing that she has intervened in my thought pattern many times. And I'm so grateful. You need that person in your life to say
Amen.
no or think of it this way. We need more Abigails. We need more
Amen.
Abigails, and I'm so grateful for the lesson that was taught, beautifully taught today. May God bless you all.
Anyone else? I think those remarks come from our pastor. If no one else, we're going to go to our Ten Commandments. Many best Christians claim that Christ changed, abolished, or took away the law and replaced the Ten Commandments with the. Nevertheless, in this church, we believe and do firmly teach that the resurrection of Jesus Christ caused a long list of sacrificial and ritual laws, all which had their fulfillment and completion in Him. But all moral laws, as we know, are eternal. It is written, forever, O Lord, thy word is settled in heaven. That's found in Psalms 119:99, the Ten Commandments. And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which has brought thee out of the land of Egypt, and out of the house of bondage. I shall have no other gods before me. I shall not make any graven image or any likeness or anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the waters under the earth. I shall not bow down thyself to them. That I shall not bow down thyself to them, not serve them, for I, the Lord, the God, am a jealous God, visit an iniquity on the father, unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and have mercy on them that love me, and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, For he will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, nor thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger in thy gate. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy day may be long on the land, which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's manservant, not his maidservant, not